This is the Retirement Bullpen with Richard Warner. The team at Warner Financial Solutions want to help you feel confident about your retirement, no matter where you stand. Get more at warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Now, the Retirement Bullpen.
What if the biggest threat to your retirement isn't the market, but the fact that your business may not sell when you are ready to exit? If you're an entrepreneur, stay tuned. You're listening to the Retirement Bullpen, and I'm here with our host, Richard Warner. Richard is an investment advisor representative, certified exit planning advisor, retirement income certified professional, and owner of Warner Financial Solutions. You can learn more at warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Richard, always happy to chat with you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. How are you today?
I am doing well. This episode that we're going to talk about today, this one sort of hits home because I think I've mentioned in the past, my dad is an entrepreneur. He owns a veterinary business in small town, rural Maine. And this is his world. What we're going to talk about today, this is what he spent his life building. And I don't know that I've ever had the conversation with him about it, but that transition from taking a business that you have worked and poured your blood, sweat, and tears into and turning that into a retirement plan is a process. Talk to me.
Yeah, it is a process. And I think a lot of business owners are really good at running their business and building their business, but they underestimate that process of someday they're going to have to shut their doors or sell the business or transition it to somebody else. So I'll throw some numbers at you real quick. Over the next 10 years, research would say that 70+% of business owners want to put their business up for sale. Now I'm talking about small business owners.
Sure.
Over half of those are baby boomers. So these are people in an age range that might need to, just from depending upon the type of businesses they have, might need to retire.
That's my dad, 75 years old. He shouldn't be wrestling cows in the field.
Right, exactly. It gets really dangerous. So I just turned 51 this summer. It started to get dangerous for me to do something like that. Not that I do, but I grew up with cattle and all that kind of stuff. So I know exactly what you're talking about. The problem is 20 to 30% of those businesses will actually go to market and sell with some intrinsic value, allowing the owner to benefit from all the work they've put in, plus the real estate, plus the inventory, the customers, all that sort of thing. The other 70 to 80% are going to close their doors, and that's it. They might liquidate the real estate. They might liquidate some machinery. They might liquidate some inventory, but they're not going to get nearly out of it what they had thought they would. And it creates a lot of problems in retirement.
I think that's so true because most business owners, again, I can only speak from what I've witnessed, but, my dad, this was his baby. He bought the business fresh out of veterinary school, probably from a veterinarian that was retiring, but it was before I was even born. And this has been the last, 4 decades of his life, 5 decades of his life pouring into this business. I would venture to say, and again, I haven't personally asked him, but I would venture to say this is a large piece of his net worth. This business and what he's poured into it, that's the majority of his net worth. And so selling that successfully, exiting that business successfully, and turning whatever profit he receives from that business is going to be necessary. It's not even, I can't even say it will be instrumental. It has to happen in order for him to retire.
Over 80% of your typical small business owner's net worth is made up by that business. I've seen this in real life. I've seen it in research. I've seen it in articles. When I talk with a business owner, they're very good at building their business. They're very good at what they do, the work they do in their business. Most of them, and I'm not saying all, I'm not trying to be stereotypical here, but this is what I've seen and what statistics would say. Most of them aren't good at retirement planning.
Right.
But the other side of that is they believe that they can get more return by investing into their business than by, say, putting money into stocks or mutual funds or retirement plans to use down the road. They think they're going to get more bang for their buck. And in a lot of cases, they're correct if they can make that transition and sell that business at the end. And that's where the problem lies when only 20 to 30% are selling, that if 80 to 90% of your net worth is tied up in that business and you are dependent on that business sale to retire, and it doesn't sell for near what you think, because most don't and some not at all, how are you going to retire?
Right.
That leaves you with a couple of options. Well, you just keep working the business, which sometimes your health doesn't allow. Family issues. Unfortunately, a lot of people get divorced at this stage in life, more and more common. So that creates problems. You have a partnership with somebody in your business and you have a disagreement. They want to go their own way. All these things pop up and can potentially create problems. When you can't exit and you have to stay with it, now what do you do?
Right. And you mentioned something, a lot of business owners opt to put their money back into the business. I think a lot of times it's out of necessity. Again, I pull from personal experience, but the difference between setting money aside for a 401k, any sort of retirement plan. You don't have a 401k when you're self-employed. You have to be saving actively on your own and having a plan in place. But it's so easy and most of the times necessary to put that money. Oh, I'm making good money, but that piece of equipment needs to be replaced in order for me to continue doing my job and offering the services that I offer. I need to get a new x-ray machine, or I need to update my operating room, whatever it is, again, pulling from what I've witnessed with my dad. So some of it, I think, is not knowing, but some of it is out of necessity. I want to lead into the next piece of this, and that's what I think might be best described as a value gap, because I think sometimes people think their businesses are worth a lot. I've poured all my blood, sweat, and tears, and there's that emotional attachment. But I think sometimes that emotional attachment can lead us to believe that what we have as an asset may be more than what the actual asset is. Do you see that?
That is very true. And it is that emotional attachment. This is their baby. They have spent decades, probably the vast majority in most cases of their adult life, working this business. They put it probably generates a really good revenue. So they're looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, it makes me this much money. If another business owner or potential owner is going to buy this from me, it should return this type of sale price to me, because it's going to continue to generate that new business owner the same value. Where the value gap comes in, though, is a lot of times, because of the way the owner has built their business, they are married to the business and its returns. And what I mean by that is, this is a great question I like to ask a business owner when I'm talking to him about, or her, about that intrinsic value. I like to call it or some people call it the secret sauce. What makes your business click? What makes it go? If you would go on vacation for a month, what happens? Does the business keep on clicking, or does everything just stop? If everything stops, which more than not with a small business owner, what is the new business owner that wants to buy it going to perceive that if I buy this business, what's going to keep it going when you go away? Maybe I don't have those same skills. Maybe I don't have those relationships with the customers. Maybe I don't have that connection to the community that I'm in like you do. That owner a lot of times can think I can build that potentially, but that's going to take time. I can't afford to fork out this large amount of money and tie up that much cash, if you will. I'm going to need that to get this thing going in my name. And so that intrinsic value and how that owner is tied to the business and how it functions without him or her is a big reason a lot of businesses don't sell at the ticket price. That's where that value gap comes from in a lot of scenarios.
I would imagine it also is that much harder for service-based businesses where you have been the primary provider of that service. My dad has been the head veterinarian for X number of years. He was the only veterinarian for many, many, many years. He had some others come and go over the course of his business lifetime. But for a long time, it was just him. I think of chiropractors. You go, that's the chiropractor. You have a relationship with that person, perhaps your plumbing, perhaps your dentist, like all of these businesses that you see as, well, I go because I like that person. And now that person is leaving. I don't know if I'm going to like the person that replaces my dentist. I might choose to go to a different dental office. How does somebody who's in a service-based business need to think about the transition differently than somebody that perhaps is selling parts? They have a warehouse. That's a different type of business where you're not necessarily as client-facing.
So I will say both of those examples where you're talking about the parts in the warehouse are very much similar.
Oh, interesting.
Because again, when you're looking at a relationship of a small business to his customers or her customers, there's a relationship there in every particular scenario.
That's true.
And regardless of what it is, they can go to a different parts store right down the street.
Sure.
A vet, a dentist, all those are great examples because you go to those people because you like them, you trust them. I'm not going to necessarily like or trust this new person. So how do you bridge that gap? Well, you got to start planning early. The other thing a lot of business owners don't do because they don't think they have enough time. They think it's too early. They think they're too busy. They think they can do it on their own, whatever it might be, is they don't begin prepping 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road. So let's just use a quick example. Let's use your dad's vet business because we've been talking about that.
Sure.
Your dad's vet business could be transitioned to another business owner that nobody knows over a period of time. How would he do that? Very simply, he could hire somebody on that is going to become that owner someday. So that owner has a 3 or 5 year window to build trust. And now when your dad leaves, he can get that intrinsic value. Plus the new owner has been trained, understands the business, understands the people, understands the area. And the transition can go really, really smooth. It doesn't guarantee you're going to keep all the customers, but you're going to keep the vast majority of them in that situation.
Sure.
What happens more times than not is people like your dad, and I'm not saying he did this, but people like your dad, I need to retire in 6 months. I got to sell my business. Well, the new owner does not have that window of time to learn all those things. Therefore, it's really difficult to get that same sale price unless you have some sort of a management team in there that is going to stick around. And so a lot of the connections that the customer has with the business are staying. That can also help. But in a lot of cases with a small business, there's not a huge management team. Sure. There's maybe a few employees, and sometimes they're part-time employees. Right. The connection is with the owner. And so the owner has got to figure out a way to bridge that gap to pass that on, or he or she's got to be willing to stay on for a period of time after they sell the business to help bridge that gap. There's all kinds of ways it can be structured. But it all starts with planning, and it very rarely works 6 months to a year out because you don't have time to create that plan and build that trust with the new owner.
Sure. There's an interesting statistic when I was researching this topic for our conversation today, and we've talked a lot about the emotional part of retirement. Yeah. But I thought it was particularly interesting when it came to entrepreneurs, and that's 75% of owners actually regret selling their business within 1 year. Why do you think that number is so significantly higher in the entrepreneurial world than it is in the average retiree?
So the average retiree, again, this is a stat too, 80% of people don't like their jobs. And so they are glad to go. They've got
That's
hobbies.
Probably higher. People just are afraid to check that box when the survey comes through.
Right. So a business owner, an entrepreneur, it's much different. They love what they do, or at least they love most aspects of it. Nobody loves everything about what they do. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I love 80 to 90% of what I do, but there's stuff that I hate. But
of course,
as an owner, it's been my livelihood for a period of time. When somebody's getting ready to retire, you're talking about 3 or 4 decades of their life, typically, that has been spent day after day after day. It's their hobby. They sell their business because they want to retire and they've got all this stuff they want to do. The problem is they retire. In a lot of cases, they have more time than they have stuff to do. And so within that first 12 months, many of them, because they did not plan what am I going to do in retirement?
Right.
There is what we call the retirement readiness on the personal side. Is the owner ready? A lot of times the business is ready, but the owner's not ready because he or she, this has been their identity. This has been their purpose. And it's not about the money. It's about this is who they are. Mm-hmm. They walk out that door that last time. That is gone. Now, who are they?
Right.
And it's an identity issue for a lot of people.
I think, again, you're speaking something that's so close and personal to my own life because my dad knew he wanted to be a veterinarian starting at the age of 11. That's what he told my grandparents he wanted to be. And from that point on, he never wavered from that being what he pursued and what he became. And he spent his entire life being a veterinarian. I certainly don't want to end it on a negative note, but I think we have to mention what happens if business owners don't plan and suddenly there's an unexpected health crisis and there is no plan to sell. That makes it so much more difficult on the families if they're left with a business that they don't know anything about.
Very difficult. A lot of businesses, some of the kids are involved, but in the scenario where the health issue happens and they're not, now maybe you have a spouse, maybe you don't have a spouse, but a lot of times there is. But is that spouse prepared to jump in and fill in for you?
Right. And something like a veterinarian, you need a degree.
Yeah, you gotta have some knowledge and training. So you just can't step in. And that's the case with, at least on the training side, with pretty much most businesses. And so your business is kind of out of luck in that situation. Your household potentially is out of luck. How is your spouse who depends upon you? Especially if the health issue, now when you pass away, sometimes people have life insurance and things like that. So that replaces the income and that's not as big of a deal, but sometimes it's not a death. Sometimes it's just a serious health thing that they can't do the business anymore. Right. How are you and your spouse going to survive now that you can't sell the business? Because this also creates a scenario where you're going to get, even if it is a saleable business, you're going to get lowballed offers because you don't have a strategy in place. So you're going to get significantly less than you would have if you'd been planning a transition throughout this whole time. Because if you had a transition plan, if you'd been building a plan, you'd have a management team or a manager, somebody in place that's going to help that through that process. And it wouldn't be as big of a hiccup. It'd still be a hiccup, obviously. Nobody likes to go through those health issues, but you would have a plan in place and it would work itself out over time. Right. In that situation where there's no plan and you don't know when that's going to happen. None of us know when that's going to happen. I had a client walk in recently that unexpected life change. He wasn't a business owner. He was just, but again, it just happens and we don't know when it's going to happen. So the reality here is you want to plan. A lot of people think exit planning is for when I am ready to sell. Exit planning is prepping your business so you can leave and it can sell and the two of you can get the most out of that scenario. And it starts years in advance.
Well, if most business owners aren't prepared to exit, then the real question is, how do you become one of the few who are? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about next time. We're going to break down the exact framework and the steps that business owners can take to turn their company into a sellable asset. And in the meantime, if you're looking to start a conversation about your individual situation, whether you're a business owner, you just want to talk about retirement planning in general, you can schedule a complimentary consultation with Richard today by visiting WarnerFinancialSolutions.com. Again, WarnerFinancialSolutions.com. And of course, we would love it if you shared this episode with perhaps your most lovable entrepreneur, or be sure to subscribe so you never miss a future show. Thanks so much for joining us and come back again soon.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Warner Financial. Warner Financial is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Warner Financial are not subject to investment advisor requirements. NPN number 7617022. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Warner Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Warner Financial.